So why are diet foods making us fatter? We all consume massive quantities of diet sodas and fat-free cookies and cakes and things. Kind of think we're skirting the disaster there, but it's kind of it's one of these things. If I gave everybody a pill out here that said it's going to make you taller, and immediately you started shrinking, most of us would stop taking that pill, right? But all of us out here who start, drinking diet sodas and eating the fat-free foods and continue to gain weight, we never, for some reason, make that mind-body connection where it might not be the food being so helpful in making us lose weight, and it's actually making us gain weight. And so we're going to talk a little bit today. I'm going to try to keep it pretty simple and basic. We can get into some specifics maybe during the Q&A portion. But I just really want to talk a little bit about the kind of the chemistry and what's happening inside your body that is triggering diet foods to make us fatter. Okay? So the scientific industrial complex is trying to kill you. Every good talk has a little bit of conspiracy built in with a little bit of fact. But I happen to believe that this is true. I think that the government and the corporations are working together to addict us to cheap foods that they can sell at huge margins and to force us into a healthcare system that continues to just sort of, soak money out of our bank accounts and to, make us dependent on this nanny state that we've started to grow into. So this all started really, artificial sweeteners were around before the mid-'80s or early '80s, but during the '80s is really when everything started to really kick up. You had brands like, Diet Coke was introduced. We had Entenmann's fat-free pastries, TCBY, yogurt started popping up on every corner. And so as a nation, we really all just kind of blindly followed this path to this fat-free and sugar-free lifestyle, thinking that this was going to be such a great alternative. You can eat as much as you want, you're never going to get fat, and we're going to be this fit, healthy society in 20 years. Well, since then, our obesity rates among adults have doubled. It's tripled among children. And really nothing else has changed besides our diet on a daily basis. So we have, if you look at, youth sports are bigger and more popular than they've ever been. These kids are exercising year round. And, so that it's not as if we have just become this sedentary nation. Gyms are exploding. All of these things that would sort of logically lead you to believe that, not believe, but follow you to the logical conclusion that we are a healthier, more fit nation. The statistics as far as obesity rates contradict that sharply. So something else is obviously afoot here. So I'm going to go over, I think it's 6 different kinds of food that are considered healthy by their sort of marketing nature of either being low calorie or low fat. We're going to talk a little bit about what's wrong with them and why they're wrong, and then some healthy alternatives to these. So we're going to start with cooking oils. And there's a few different things from a chemistry standpoint. So the first one we're going to talk about is high omega-6 versus omega-3 ratios. So omega-3 fatty acids are kind of all the rage now. It's mainly from fish and flax oils and those kinds of things. So omega-6 is not in and of itself a bad fat, but when taken in too high a ratio, omega-6 they produce hormone productions, and those hormones lead to inflammation. And so we have body-wide inflammation and impaired cellular health, clotting and proliferation, and that's due to the hormone production. Diets high in omega-6 increase risk of heart attack and death from heart disease. We have long-chain fatty acids are not easily burned as energy, and so they're stored as fat. And so what ends up happening here is that we literally have these oils that are essentially good when taken in good ratio with omega-3s, and they work to balance themselves out. But when you have a high level of these in your body, your body has no ability to break these things down. And so they're literally just stored as fat in the system. They're less stable than butterfat and degrades and releases free radicals. So when you think about things like cancer and heart disease, this greatly increases the risks there. And it's refined to increase the smoke point for frying and searing and browning. And the smoke from oils is toxic. And so what they've done is they've taken these, corn oils and partially hydrogenated oils, and they have literally chemically altered them to increase their smoke point. Literally that point at which you've got it on the stove and it starts smoking. Well, that smoke is a toxic chemical being released. And so the reason they're doing this is it's cheaper and it's great for frying. So it's a really cheap oil that they can fry a lot of foods in. And so that's why, and we sort of all go to this kind of catch-all. You've got your oil up in the cabinet, you crank it out, you saute everything in or whatever. So you're literally introducing a poison into your kitchen. And so how does this all affect, how we're going to get fat? Well, obviously the calories and the fat content and the inability for the body to break it down. But if you're sick, you're clearly not going to be exercising. You're not going to be doing things. You're going to have low energies and all these kinds of things. So some of the things are directly related to the chemistry in the body. But the other side is you just have to look at it from a holistic standpoint of if you're not healthy, you cannot exercise. And if you cannot exercise, you will get fatter. I mean, it's just a very clear thing. And exercise doesn't have to mean going out and doing triathlon. It can be as simple as walking a couple miles a day and those kinds of things. So, okay. So some alternatives. So better choice. Grass-fed butter is a great one. I'm going to jump down to the bottom here and then come back up. So also consider, we have high smoke points. So think about when you're cooking, how hot you want something. So if you're going to be sauteing something over really high heat, you want to go to the right kinds of oils for this. So high smoke point, you have almond, avocado, hazelnut, and palm. Medium high, you have canola, grapeseed, and extra virgin olive oil and peanut oils. Medium smoke point, you have corn, hemp, and sesame and coconut oil. And then no heat, you have flaxseed and wheat germ. So these are some great alternatives that are available at every grocery store that I'm sure you shop at now. You can be using some of these. These slides will be available if you can't see them exactly. But why is butter, grass-fed butter, a better choice? Well, saturated fats are vital to our cellular well-being, and they do not drive heart disease. And this is something that really over the last 5 years or so, scientifically, they've really started to come around to, is this saturated fat is not the cause of all of our ills. They're really starting to realize that there are some very, very good health benefits to the saturated fats being in the body. Saturated fats make it ideal for cooking because it doesn't oxidize easily from heat, light, or oxygen. So that means that smoke point in terms of releasing free radicals and other chemicals into the system has a really high smoke point. You can cook with it. It's a great alternative. The one thing you have to consider here is that the butter the fat is a magnet for heavy metals and antibiotics. So when you go and you get kind of the dairy, the source of the butter, you want to look for the grass-fed cow dairy butter, because they're going to be absent of these heavy metals and antibiotics in their food source. High in lauric and linoleic acids, the CLA, and these support immune system, fight heart disease, and build lean muscle. So the first and third things, obviously, if you have a great immune system, you're going to get sick less, you're going to be able to exercise more, or at least sort of function normally during the day, more of your 365 days of the year. So you're going to be able to walk more, exercise more, etc. So, and then grass-fed cows produce butter. The butter produced from your grass-fed cows are 3 to 5 times higher in this CLA. So the CLA is present in the sort of off-the-shelf butter, but it is in much lower quantities. Okay, so you want to kind of try to stick to the grass-fed dairy cow butter. Okay, next thing, fat-free pretzels. So this is one that somehow pretzels sort of were introduced into our diets as this like healthy alternative to potato chips and other things, and it's not. Not at all. So, fat factors. First, most are made from white flour, which is stripped of most nutrients and injected with synthetic vitamins and minerals. So, you're basically just eating empty calories. That's just bottom line. You are ingesting things that are giving you no other health benefits whatsoever. So, refined flours incite inflammation, leads to chronic disease and weight gain. So, for me, this manifests itself mostly in asthma. When I eat things that are high in white flour, my asthma and my joint pain just goes through the roof, like within 10 minutes of eating pretzels. And so for me, that means that I can't exercise, I can't work out, I can't do those things. Plus, I've got a bunch of empty calories in my system, so I'm basically burning white-hot sugar for no good reason. Leads to cravings. Empty carbs trigger sudden rush of blood glucose, signals brain that is being fed, but nutrients do not follow, leading to cravings. This is a common recurring thing that, like every other bad slide, is going to go back to this. Essentially what's happening here is that the brain is getting this signal that it's getting food and it's getting nutrients, but the nutrients don't come. So the body is still sort of sitting there going, well, you told me I was getting something. And so it's going to keep triggering the brain, hey, keep eating more because something's wrong here. I need more. And so it's not that they're just so tasty. Pretzels are tasty, but it's the salt on the pretzel. And you try to eat a white pretzel without salt, not so tasty. And so your body just keeps triggering this response to say, I'm waiting for it. We still have these lizard brains that are very, very simple. Brain gets this chemical signal that says, expect this, and when this doesn't happen, it's going to try to seek that out. And then the last thing, it is this kind of false sense of virtue. Like you feel like you're eating this kind of healthy alternative type of food, and so you go and eat a bag of pretzels, and you think, well, that was a good alternative to lunch or something else, and you sort of check this little mental box in your brain that says, I ate something pretty good today. And really, you didn't eat something that was a whole lot better than a Twinkie or something else. So some better alternatives. Now, this is sort of take this one with some caveats here. So a good alternative to the pretzel, if that's what you're craving, is something salt and something fun to eat, potato chips. Now, right kinds of potato chips, obviously, so don't go and grab a big bag of Lay's and eat the whole thing. But the potato is a food. There's no such thing as a pretzel plant out there. So anytime you have an alternative or a choice, go for the naturally occurring food out there, as opposed to something that's highly refined and highly processed. Fat in a potato chip holds down the glycemic load of potato. This is, if any of you have read Sugar Busters, one of the common threads in that book is really about kind of balancing out the high glycemic foods with fat. So if you're going to eat a dessert, it is literally better to eat that dessert with your meal, or as an immediately following the entree, because the fat of a meat, let's say, will counteract the insulin spike of a dessert. And so it lets the body metabolize that sugar over a much longer period. You don't have that really high and then big deep crash. So. And then we're going to go back to the cooking oil discussion on the organic potato chips, good quality oils. So you want to go and there's a couple of good brands. I mean, you certainly want to go to a Sprouts or a Whole Foods if you want some potato chips, rather than reaching for the Lay's just because of the oils that it's cooked in, the quality of potato that you're going to start out with. And it's more satisfying to the brain than the pretzel. This we get into when we talk about yogurt in a minute, but it's basically by using that good fat, by using a good potato, your brain is just going to require you to eat far less of it to be satiated. Okay. Skinless chicken. So this was kind of a surprise to me, and I was reading a lot more about this. But and this is kind of going back to the butter conversation in regards to finding really good sources of meat in terms of grass-fed, low antibiotic, etc. So the antibiotics are leading to urinary tract infections and other bacterial infections. In foodborne illness, 2005 CDC found that bacteria, I can't pronounce that, on 47% of raw chicken breasts tested. And so when you look at, you're eating this great healthy food that's, lean muscle, lean protein, and it's making you sick, right? So when you think about why you're eating this, part of it is, it's a low fat, high protein alternative to something else, but it's making us sick. And so it's going to be very difficult to, again, lead that healthy lifestyle if you're starting to get chronic diseases. You look at things like Crohn's disease and autoimmune disorders. A lot of this stuff is being triggered by these and other bacterial infections. So this is low in the good fats. So when we talked about the omega-3 acids that we really need to be looking at, So, obviously stick to some fish and things like that. And so again, we can't work out if we're sick. So the skinless chicken, I mean, you want to go, well, let's go to the next slide actually, because we do good. So the better choices are grass-fed beef, richer in omega-3 fats. I would add to this list, I don't know if I did or not, is that if you are going to go with chicken, because I still eat a fair amount of chicken, is to go and find that free-range chicken, not farmed, not no antibiotics, no hormones added. That's incredibly important. I think it's one of the things that that's a big marketing buzz right now. But really look for those things that are low in antibiotics, or no antibiotics, no hormones. So these are also higher in the CLA, which, if you remember back on the oils, in terms of producing lean muscle and better immune function. No antibiotics, fraction of the harmful bacteria. Grass-fed is 1/3 to 1/2 of the overall fat content of grain-fed counterpart. So think about that. A 6-ounce grass-fed steak has almost 100 fewer calories than its grain-fed counterpart. Okay, so that is a mile walked, and we'll get into. We got some calorie burner charts up here later. But so that's a pretty significant amount of activity that steaks are theoretically going to taste better by the grass-fed. But it's literally going to be filling you with 100 extra calories that you're getting zero benefits from. Okay, go ahead. Artificial sweeteners. I mean, I did a brown bag on this a few months ago. This is the part where the food companies are trying to kill us, in my opinion. So, toxicity, sucralose and aspartame are linked to skin rashes, migraines, impaired cognitive function, blurred vision. And this list could literally go on with 20 other symptoms from lupus. There are really heavy links to Parkinson's and MS due to the artificial sweeteners. I can't say it enough. Quit drinking diet sodas and artificial sweeteners. They're just horrible, horrible, horrible for you. There's a bait and switch function that is similar to one that we talked about before. So taste of artificial sweetener triggers the liver to receive sugar shipment. So body thinks it's about to get sugar. Body has no idea what aspartame is. It's chemically not even similar to sugar. There's no connection to the body and to the brain. So the body releases insulin to break that sugar down and metabolize it, and the sugar never comes, and so the liver triggers body to eat more. And not only that is that then the insulin never comes to flush the blood out, the sugar out of the blood. And so it doesn't know how to treat this chemical. So the chemical essentially is just floating around in your bloodstream, really, really high spikes in the sugar levels, and then immediate crashes. So artificial sweeteners are 13,000 times sweeter than regular sugar. And so this causes, you have literally a hard biological change in your sweet sensors, leading to binge eating in long term. So you then can, you eat an apple and it doesn't even taste sweet to you anymore, And so fruit has sort of lost its sensation, and you can't drink a regular fruit juice and kind of, a normal fruit juice without having sugar and other things added to it. So it literally is kind of one of these things where this is evident in drug addicts, where the neuroreceptors are so badly damaged, and not so much damaged, but just flooded out, that they can no longer get high anymore. They just have to take that amount of drug to just maintain. Very similar type of effect in these artificial sweeteners. So, better choices. Unrefined organic cane sugar. There's nothing wrong with sugar. This is literally something that has been pulled down over everyone's eyes, that sugar was this terrible thing. I mean, it's like 20 calories in a teaspoon of sugar. I mean, it's far better for you. It's a naturally occurring substance. It's a molecule that your body knows how to deal with. It has millions and millions of years of dealing with that. We have raw honey, real maple syrup. I mean, there's agave nectar. There's a few others out there to do, but just really kind of get over the idea that sugar is the problem. Sugar is not the problem. I mean, literally, you could walk 200 yards and burn off a tablespoon of sugar. So don't look at sugar as such the bad guy. Eat sugar, not a problem. In normal amounts, moderation. Fat-free yogurt. This is another one. This is this I put in that group with the pretzels, where fat-free yogurt is this health food now, right? So it's, low calorie, it has fruit in it, all these great benefits to it. But when you take out fat from yogurt, it still needs to be thick and fatty like yogurt is. Well, how do you do that? You add additives, which is emulsifiers and thickening agents. This is really fun stuff. Emulsifiers are the cousin to antifreeze, considered toxic to the skin and neurological toxins. There's countries that will not allow these types of chemicals in their food at all, and these are literally taken in and of themselves when they're not added to food. They are listed as a poison, and yet we add them in small quantities to things like salad dressings, yogurt. If you make salad dressing yourself, the herbs and things don't just sort of float in the middle of the salad dressing. That's this stuff making it do that. Salad dressing should always have to be mixed up every time you use it, not just sitting there. Lack of satiety. Fat is filling, triggers a stop eating sensor. So a lack of fat causes overeating and a lack of fullness feeling. I mean, it is amazing that you can eat. I mean, you can take a big thing of, a lot of the potato chips that are out there, for instance, that use these kind of low-calorie fats, and you can just eat them forever, and you never get full. And yet, when you eat, something that's higher, and like a piece of pizza, you can only eat so much pizza before you just start feeling that really nasty full feeling. That's a good feeling. That's your body. That's sort of a survival mechanism that can kind of, it shuts a lot of processes off in your body. And then the empty calories lead to cravings. So fat helps slow the glycemic process. Again, you want your sugar sort of coming out of the food like this, not up here and then dropping right off the face of the earth. So that's that huge energy spike, kind of manic feeling, and then you're sitting there after lunch and you can't keep your eyes open. Reducing sugar high and keeping cravings at bay. So that's a really important thing. So go to the next one. So alternatives, real yogurt. So full-fat yogurt from milk and pasture-raised cows. Again, you want to go with the free-range dairy cows that are producing the dairy on this one. The Greek yogurt is the best. Greek yogurt, I think, has like 30 grams of protein for like a 3-ounce kind of thing. Some people it's too thick, so you can actually kind of water it down with some skim yogurt. If it's too high in concentrate. And then also avoid the fruited yogurts. It is delicious, but a lot of that fruited stuff has sugar and things added to it. So just grab a container of blueberries or strawberries or nuts or both, or craisins, those kinds of things, and just sprinkle them into your plain yogurt. That's really going to be the best alternative, and it's delicious. Part of this is kind of going back to that artificial sweetness slide, is taking 30 days of eating good, healthy, raw foods and getting rid of those artificial sweeteners. And a handful of blueberries is going to taste like candy again, like it did when you were a little kid. Okay, so energy bars. This I think is one of the biggest culprits, and I see a lot of people that just immediately, and then the next slide is energy drinks. But these two are really kind of in the same bucket, where we see these things that are being marketed to us. I mean, Snickers has a freaking energy bar, for God's sake, right? So, some of these are good. So you have some raw energy bars that are very good, slow burning, really good ingredients. I think it's on the next one. They don't sell those at Circle K. So anything you see across the street there that is branded as this great energy bar, it's not what you think it is, right? So rice and wheat soy crisps are added in. They're highly processed. They're added in bulk, texture, and crunch. They digest quickly, causing the surge in blood sugar. So again, recurring process. These things happen all the time. So you have all of these filler agents that are just there to sort of give the bar bulk and texture that we all want, and they all just cause the same problem. So it's either an empty calorie or it's a blood sugar surge. Organic brown rice syrup. This one right here is a subversive little bastard, because people see this brown rice and they kind of think, oh, this is really good for me, right? It's not. So brown rice, they've just found pretty much universally has really, really high levels of arsenic that they're finding now. And so consuming just 2 or 3 energy bars a day, which sounds like a lot, but if you sort of substitute an energy bar and then an energy drink and a couple of other things, you are at very dangerously high levels of arsenic in your system. So just be very careful. There are some good alternatives.
I didn't see brown rice that Chipotle sells?
What's that?
Is that the same brown rice at Chipotle?
It is the same brown rice as Chipotle and everywhere else. And everywhere else that you see brown rice.
That said brown rice syrup. I don't know if that was...
Well, yeah, so brown rice in general, I mean, it's better than white rice and it's better than, the refined. We've actually started to cut rice. We used to drink a lot of rice milk and consume rice and a lot of other things. We've drastically reduced our intake of it. It's better than white rice. White rice is refined. It has the sugar and all the problems that go on with the sugar spikes. But kind of you have to weigh the health benefits of ingesting a lot of arsenic. I mean, rice is grown on the ground in a very wet environment, and so what we're seeing is a lot of toxic dumping, and then that arsenic just kind of sits in the ground, and so we're ruining a lot of our food supply. Sports drinks, watch out for high fructose corn syrup. I think that we all know that that's kind of one of the scourges of today's dietary system. Guar gum, it's an emulsifier, so again, we've talked about that. That's why they can hold color in an energy drink or in a sports drink really well. Brominated vegetable oil, BVO. It's an emulsifier, a flame retardant, and a hormone disruptor banned in several countries. The hormone disruptor, when you think about what, so you just did this great workout, and you're spent, you lifted, got your pump on, and all this great stuff, and then you go and grab a sports drink that then disrupts hormones like testosterone that you want flooding into your system right now, right? And so you're blocking these receptors in your body, and you're essentially negating everything that you just did, in addition to taking on an extra 200-300 calories. So, better alternative: water and/or water diluted with some juice and sea salt. That's all Gatorade is, and that's all the benefit really is. I like actually pickle juice. So if you get a jar of pickles, do a couple shots of pickle juice on like a really hot day where you're going to be sweating a ton, but it's a better alternative than a lot of the sports drinks. Okay? Calorie burners. So when you think about why you would sort of risk taking all these low-calorie alternatives into your body, it's all about getting healthier and reducing the calories that your body has inside, because that's how we get fat, is we're taking on more calories than we're burning. So I thought it'd be helpful to just kind of look at some of these things and give the reality. So we'll eat a chemical to try to save 100 calories out of something, right? Well, so when you start looking at these, walking in 2 miles per hour for an hour, that's a very slow walk pace and very comfortable, just kind of a stroll talking to your buddy. 220 calories for the hour. So, I mean, you walk around the mall for an hour, you're burning a couple hundred calories right there. Up the pace, just double the pace, in a 4 miles, like a brisk walk. You're not getting out of breath, but you're pushing it. It's 440 calories for 1 hour walk. Go to the zoo, you spend 3 hours there. If you keep walking, you're burning a steak dinner and then some. Okay. Housework, 210 calories an hour. It's pretty good. Playing with your kids, almost 300 calories for an hour. Okay, so just kind of think when next time you're going to the store and you're looking at food packaging, what are you giving up, or what are the benefits that you're giving up out of taking the sort of the low calorie, no calorie, low fat alternative to there. Golf. So this is a big one. So by walking golf, it's almost double the calories than by riding in the cart. So I was surprised to see that you burn 250 calories by riding in the cart still. But running at an 8 mile per hour pace, the 7:30 pace, burn up about 1,000 calories in an hour. That's a pretty good amount of calories there. Pushing a stroller with a child is a couple hundred calories. So again, go to the mall, push a baby, borrow your friend's baby, go push it around the mall for a while. Mopping, 326 calories for the hour. Foreplay, 106 calories for the hour. So just making out on the couch for an hour, not bad, Tim. See you. All right. And then one thing that I think is really helpful to always remember is a foot travel, whether you're sprinting or walking, for 1 mile is about 110 calories. Okay, so as you're out there and you're just thinking, oh, I'm walking around the mall today, or I'm going to go do the Gangplank Mile. That's why these kinds of things, these really easily digestible periods of exercise, like a Gangplank Mile or walking for half an hour, or just kind of getting up and strolling around, take a phone call, walk to the end of the block, come back. Every time you do those, you are basically getting this. You're getting a lot more benefits just from a cardiovascular standpoint, but you're negating the need to have to go to these sugar-free alternatives, right? So Diet Coke versus Coke. Well, if there's 100 calories in the Coke, drink the Coke, walk a mile, and as opposed to going and putting a chemical in your body from the Diet Coke. Okay, walking a mile, I think as we've all seen that has done the Gangplank Mile, it's 20 minutes, it's easy, have a chat, make a phone call, anything like that. So I think we're done. Yep, so name's Troy, email's troy@busot.com, I'm Troy Busot on Twitter. So that's it. Questions?
So we started buying organic milk and eggs and meat. And I'm wondering if the term organic is as true as and important as I think it is, or it's kind of marketing bullshit.
It's yes on both. I mean, the problem is Monsanto just bought Whole Foods, or a large stake of Whole Foods, a couple years ago, very quietly. And so when you get things like wind travel of seeds and those kinds of things, I think that there's a big reduction in what is truly organic out there. At the same time, I think that it's still a good badge and something that, it's not double the price to buy organic. It's, 20% more usually.
Sometimes it is. I mean, a gallon of milk is $6 versus like $1.50.
Yeah.
So my real question is milk and eggs, because those are the two things that we've been doing most, and those seem to be like super expensive. Is it a waste or is it?
Yeah. So the question is are the benefits of buying organic real? And it's kind of there's no easy answer to it. So one is I think that and studies certainly back this up, we ingest way too much dairy. So buying gallons of milk is something that I think people are kind of slowly waking up to. That's a bad practice. We don't need, as humans, adults, to drink even a glass of milk a day, right? So there's that. But I think it comes down to practice of the farmers that are running organic farms. And so when you can go to, local dairies, I think that's a great benefit where you can actually pay attention to what is happening. When you've got these food factories, these chickens that are living in coops and, being pumped full of all this stuff. So I think, you just kind of have to look at, that type of thing. But yeah, I mean, there's a lot of marketing hype to it for sure. I don't know that buying a box of organic granola over a non-organic box of granola, it's not the organic that I'm really looking at. I'm reading the label on it to know what else is in there, right? So organic oats doesn't mean anything if there's a bunch of high fructose corn syrup and other stuff that is in there.
But isn't that not organic then? I mean,
no, you could have organic corn that is used to make the syrup, right? So the organic is kind of the marketing side of it. It really comes down to reading the label and understanding what you're looking for. If you can't pronounce it, I think it's a pretty good indicator. Just don't eat it. I mean, you really want to be sticking to pretty raw types of foods. So eggs and those kinds of things, I don't know. Is it worth it? I say yes because we buy it. It is more expensive, but I think that I look at it from an egg standpoint. Let's say is that farmer is probably doing more things to treat his chickens better, cleaning the coops and doing those kinds of things and producing a better quality egg than the other guy. So that's my answer to it.
When it comes to actual organic stuff, we run the farmer's market. It can be organic, and if the farmer is going to lose somewhere in the neighborhood of half of his crop, whatever it is, they can still spray with pesticides and keep their organic certification. So just because it says it's organic does not necessarily mean that it's completely chemical free. You're better off actually knowing where your food's coming from versus going by that label.
And in this town, I mean, right now we've got chow locally. The the point was that there's a lot of chemicals being introduced. I think about 5-6 years ago, when you started seeing all these roll-ups with the organic, like Cascadia Farms and some of the bigger organic companies started getting bought up by General Mills and these types of companies, all of a sudden you saw them with vested interest in reducing the requirements for organic certification. And so what Marnie said is exactly right, that all of a sudden you had, again, drift, you have a ton of drift, so you have Monsanto seed mixed in with organic seed, but as long as it's like, I think it's a pretty low number, it's like 15% or something of that seed has to be organic and to be considered organic anymore. So it's bad. But yeah, I mean, we have Chow locally here. It was a great alternative for us here in Chandler that, that's organic. You know where it's coming from, the processes that are going into it.
Do you have an opinion on protein bars and the sugar alcohols that they talk about?
Yeah, so the question is opinion on protein bars and sugar alcohols?
Yeah, they say it doesn't qualify as carbohydrate or whatever.
Sugar alcohols in and of themselves?
In the protein bars.
In the protein bars?
Yeah.
Oh, no, I don't know. I'm not familiar with that at all.
What about protein bars in general?
Protein bars in general, again, go raw. There's some great, we have Lara bars in back here. There's some really good, there's 5 or 6 that are raw. They contain a lot of nuts and dates and figs and things like that. And they're just like this really dense bar. But when you have one of these, I always forget the name of my favorite one, but I think it's not Whole Food. I'll send out an email about it. But there's a few. Lara bars are great though. I mean, they're literally like 4 ingredients on there, and but things like Power Bars and I shouldn't speak disparagingly as a representative of Athlinks, but a lot of the energy bars out there, and again, it kind of depends on what you're using them for, right? So when I'm in the middle of a 50-mile bike ride and I need some of that fast-burning energy, low glycemic, where it's going to be a slow burn, but I want to burn that in 45 minutes, that's what Power Bar is meant for. Power Bar is not meant for you sitting at your desk and I've got a craving and I'm going to go eat a 400-calorie bar with a ton of protein in it, right? So, but the other thing, kind of the meal replacement bars, which I think is what you're more talking about, which is, again, Lara bars, True Bar. There's a handful of them. But again, they don't sell them at Circle K. So when you walk into Circle K, don't even look at the label. I mean, just buy for taste because you're not getting something that's very healthy for it.
What about light versions of things? These have had some fat removed, like my light Busot ice cream.
Yeah, so light ice cream. Okay, so emulsifiers again. So you have to replace that fat with something, and that's what it's replaced with. It's not replaced by calorie-free fat, which doesn't exist. So it's literally being replaced by, and some of these are it's kind of like soy resin and things like that, where it's not necessarily a bad chemical all the time, but again, it's just an empty calorie. And so when you look at half-mile walk, mile walk, as opposed to eating what probably tastes better, which is the natural sugar, again, it's just best not to introduce those chemicals because we don't fully understand the long-term effects of all these chemicals. We're really starting to notice a lot of them now, especially with the aspartame and sucralose and things like that. But we don't really know what these emulsifiers are going to do long term. And we've got so much crap in our systems now, I don't know that we'll ever be able to fully understand what each individual thing is doing to us. So, Ward?
All this advice kind of raises the question, if I were to go through my day, right? Maybe you could walk us through your day and what you eat.
Sure.
Just so we know what are lots of healthy options, because so many are bad or dangerous. Or could you walk us through a day? And
so my typical day, I'm kind of a boring eater. I don't mind eating the same things a lot, but so I eat egg whites and brown rice toast. That's I think about the only brown rice I'm down to now. So brown rice toast with peanut butter and honey on it, or just butter. And then I'll try to eat a little bit of fruit. So I think fruit is one of these things where we kind of tend to overdo it on the moderation side, or underdo the moderation, overdo the fruit. So just a couple pieces of fruit with the breakfast. And then I try to do a snack kind of mid-morning, and I'm guilty of, I'll go to Circle K and get a granola bar, but typically a Lara bar or a raw bar or some nuts and some dried fruits, those kinds of things. Just couple handfuls will really tide you over to lunch. Lunch, sushi, salads with some meat, sandwiches on like whole grains and things like that. I eat the heck out of burritos, so I usually go burrito bowl, but I probably eat 3 or 4 burrito bowls a week at least. So, and I go brown rice, black beans. Again, the brown rice thing's kind of throwing me off right now, so that's something that I'm gonna have to kind of figure out for myself. But loaded up on the vegetables, a little bit of cheese. I think one of the things is I think we're really waking up to is that cheese is not bad for you, sugar is not bad for you. All these things in moderation, And then I'll have another afternoon snack, so it's similar to the earlier one. So just again, a couple handfuls of food, a banana, some nuts, those kinds of things are really good. Dinner, we always do a vegetable, so we'll do like grilled asparagus or do a lot of that. Broccoli, those kinds of things. If they're cooked, we only cook them very, very, very little, so just kind of to heat them up for the most part. We never microwave our vegetables. And then we'll do a lean meat, usually grilled, but sometimes like stir-fried, those kinds of things. We do a lot of brown rice pasta. So we eat a lot of brown rice. I have problems with wheat, so we sort of switched over to this really high brown rice diet to hold my asthma off, and now we're just going to have to find an alternative to that. So, but it's really, the funny thing is when you get out there and you start doing it, it is a lot easier than you think it is. It really kind of just comes down to avoiding packaged food. Right, so try to stick around the perimeters of the grocery stores. That's where all the nuts and the raw foods are. It's where all the vegetables are. Everything in the middle that comes in a box, a lot of that stuff is just crap. It's really tough to find stuff that's packaged up that can sit on a shelf for a year that is good for your body. Yeah, sure.
You didn't list coconut oil. How's that fitting in? I've heard lots of good things about it.
It was on as I think it was a low smoke.
Low smoke?
It was a medium. No, I'm sorry. It was a medium
slow.
Medium.
I'm sorry.
It was the lowest. It was a medium smoke oil.
Sorry, I think Lecan's head.
We use a ton of coconut oil, so like I put it on my face. I put it on my feet. I cook with it. I think coconut oil is fantastic.
Not in that order.
But I do. It's great. And it smells like candy. I mean, it's so good. When I put it on my face at night, it's like, oh man, it just makes me hungry. But yeah, so we do a lot of cooking. The one thing with coconut oil is it has a very distinct flavor. So you have to you just kind of have to experiment. I think the one thing with the oils is that one oil doesn't fit all. There are different oils to use. Like you wouldn't pick the same herb for cooking every single thing. Certain oils you want, and you'll get sort of you'll dial that in pretty good. Connor?
So the eating healthy, eating better thing it all makes sense. What are your tips or tricks or answers for breakfast? Always seems to be the hardest to get keyed in. Mm-hmm. It's very easy to pour a bowl of cereal, milk, put it in front of the kids while you're trying to get ready for school and everything else. What are your how do you do a quick breakfast?
My kids every day eat a little bowl of cereal, and so we go the non-sugar kind of thing. So we'll do Cheerios or we'll do granola. We'll do a lot of oatmeal, ton of oatmeal. Oatmeal's a great food. I have gone, my midnight snacks almost always are a bowl of steel-cut oatmeal with fruit and nuts and a little bit of coconut milk. So that's a great breakfast for your kids, as opposed to reaching for like the Quaker that's all mixed up with the sugar and stuff. Although those are pretty good. And then we do a protein. So we'll do, typically it's going to be egg whites or scrambled eggs with that. For us, it's an extra 10 minutes of cooking maybe. So we've just built it into our system where we just wake up early enough to I literally roll out of bed, throw the pan on the stove and start. It's just a habit now. So I start cooking eggs every single morning.
Does it still take like a half an hour to make? How do you do that as a midnight snack?
Cook it in advance.
Oh no, I just cook it for 3 minutes. Well, maybe it's not steel cut. I thought it was.
Isn't steel cut the real hard little
Yeah,
part?
it usually takes about a half
If you
hour.
microwave it for 3 minutes. That's ideal. Microwave it for 3 minutes. Yeah, 3 minutes and then throw some. It's really hard and crunchy, but no, it's 3 minutes in the microwave is what I cook it for. It's perfect. And I just at Whole Foods, I mean, you literally buy the raw bag of oats. 3 minutes, and then I mean, literally you can put anything on that stuff: honey, nuts, fruit.
Caffeinated beverages, green tea. Does that work? Is that the best of them? Is that the worst? Where compared to coffee, compared to kind of that slew of things, we all in front of computers all day. So.
Yeah, I don't. I've never read anything compelling against caffeine personally. I mean, again, in moderation, try not to drink 4 pots of coffee a day, but I drink a tremendous amount of water in addition to that. So I think that's I think any beverage that's not water is you just want to avoid trying to use that beverage as water, right? So recognize in your brain that you are drinking a treat. Drink it and then drink more water. I think that's the biggest thing. Because tea, there's diuretics, there are other things in there that affect your metabolism of water. So coffee is a diuretic. It pulls water away from the cells, and so you need to replace that. So you can't just drink coffee all day. You can't just drink tea all day. Those kinds of things. So in juice, high in sugar. And there's just a lot of things. Water is still what your body needs, more than anything else. But yeah, I don't really have a problem. Ward?
So you mentioned egg whites.
Yep.
What's the deal with the yolks? And is that really bad?
Not at all. Not at all. My kids just don't really like the yolks, and I think that was part of our fault by not introducing. I've never been a big yolk fan, and so. But no, in fact, we do two days a week. We have to use the yolks. It's my compromise. So, but yeah, there's absolutely nothing wrong. I think that's another one of these sort of 80s myths where they said, "Hey, let's take the yolks out." And I mean, it might have been as simple as somebody in a marketing room going, if we tell everybody to throw their yolks away, we're going to sell, twice as many eggs. I mean, it could have been that freaking simple. So, probably something. Yeah.
I was just reading in a book last week about vitamin K2, which was overlooked, and there's a whole history behind why it was overlooked or how it got overlooked. So, to tag on your suggestion to the grass-fed beef and dairy products and even the chickens or the eggs, there's a mechanism by which, apparently, I have to investigate more, but the K2 actually works very differently from K1, and it sweeps the calcium out of your arteries, which is part of the building block for clogging arteries, and it actually puts the calcium into your bones. So that's one of the overlooked vitamins and minerals. Well, it's a vitamin, but it's a part of the whole conglomeration of nutrients which affect bone health. And so that's just another reason to go with the grass-fed.
I'll try to summarize that for the video. So K2 apparently metabolizes calcium better, delivers it correctly to the bone, takes it out of the blood, and works with K1 correctly. I will add to that, going back to the milk question, there have been a lot of really good studies about, I don't remember what the acid is in milk, but that milk actually degrades bone faster than just about anything. So we drink all this milk to try to, increase our calcium, to try to get these nice hard bones, and it's actually leading to osteoporosis. So there's some really good studies on that. So someone else had a question. Oh, yep.
Yeah, actually, Selena has a question.
Okay.
She says, sort of unrelated, but what do you think about standing after work?
I think anything that burns more calories when you're doing it is good. And one of the things, there's a book called The Way We're Working Isn't Working. And the idea is that to work mindfully. And so we can't really concentrate for longer than 15 to 45 minutes at a time. And I think that like stand-up work, which I don't do, but I would certainly consider it. It kind of forces you to walk away every 20 minutes or so. You're getting a little tired doing it. So I think functionally, it's probably really good. I don't know if there's any adverse effects. I mean, unless it's causing you pain, but it certainly forces you to sit with stand with a strong core and not, so those kinds of things. Someone else have a question? Anyone else? Anyone else? Good? Yep. Last one.
Agave sweetener.
Great. Yeah, agave is really good. I didn't, for some reason, it didn't.
You mentioned
listen
it.
there. Yeah.
I've heard bad rumors about it. I've never looked into it.
I've never heard anything bad about it, but I mean, again, it's like anything else. It's a naturally occurring sweet product that we can use today. The one thing with stevia, which I forgot to put it in my slide, stevia is this healthy alternative. It comes from a plant, but apparently stevia is incredibly bitter. And so the way that they make stevia sweet is they genetically enhance it to reduce the bitter part, which leaves this really sweet part. So it is a naturally occurring molecule, but it's been altered. And so there's kind of a debate going on as to whether or not that should be considered a healthy alternative to aspartame. So I would say no. I mean, again, I've never really understood the idea of you can only, your body, most of us, can only eat so much sugar before your body just says that's enough sugar, naturally, real sugar. And so, I just don't. If you're looking for the taste of agave, go for it. I had a really good cocktail in New York a couple weeks ago where they took agave nectar, put crushed red pepper in it, and simmered it to where it just became this incredibly spicy agave nectar, and then put it in with vodka and ginger beer. It's good. Yeah. So, anyone else? That's it.